Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast, episode 125, this week with AlpenGlow Farms. Thanks for joining us.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Growing with Fishes podcast.
As always, I forget to turn off the mic in the back, so I always open up the other box so we can read the chat. Thanks a lot for joining us.
Hey, thanks for having me on. It's an honor. I've heard a lot about your podcast, and Joshua has been on it quite a bit. And yeah, it's exciting to be here tonight.
Yeah, thanks for joining us. AlpenGlow will be running a panel at the Regenerative Organic Cannabis Conference this weekend in Humboldt, California. I believe it's in Bribery or Redway.
Bryce,
Bryce,
yeah,
that's it.
Bryceland. Bryceland is,
Bryceland.
yeah, Bryceland's located between Redway and Shelter Cove on the Bryceland Road. It's a old little logging town. And it has a little school. That's actually my children went to that school. It was originally a commune, actually. So the building we're in is this old historic octagon that has been kind of like a community meeting space for multiple generations. People have gotten married there, and kids go to school there. It's an amazing space.
It's really awesome. It was a really good time last year having the conference there. And one thing I will say though, the one downside of the place, you are completely cut off from the outside world. There is no cell service there, so make sure you take care of any communications you need to have with the outside world before you go to the school, because you will have no way to reach out after that.
We might have a pleasant surprise this year. We might have Wi-Fi. We're working on it at like today we were working on trying to sort
Okay,
that out. So
I stand
we
corrected.
we would like to have some sort of connectivity for folks. It's important, we feel.
Cool. Yeah, I know. I remember to download my presentation on my laptop beforehand this time. And,
Yeah, nice.
I got there and realized that we had to drive back down the hill to get signal so I could download it from my phone. It
Yeah,
was
yeah.
okay.
The setting is truly, the soul center of Humboldt County. It's super good vibes, and
Oh yeah, it's
so excited to
beautiful.
host everyone.
Oh yeah, and what was really cool is last year it was on St. Patty's Day, and there was a huge rainbow that ended in the field right outside the pavilion. Remember? It was really, really magical. It was awesome.
Yeah, yeah, and actually one of our farms that's on the panel, Bryceland Forest Farm, they are just over the hill, literally, a 15-minute walk from the event. And hopefully Daniel will bring a couple of folks through his farm because what Bryceland Forest Farm does to our community is absolutely amazing. They are part of our farmers market on Fridays in town and bring loads and loads of fruits and vegetables to our market every week. And they also intercrop cannabis into their systems. So they're off the grid, have goats, and they just an amazing family farm. So hopefully, we're gonna hear from them, obviously, during the panel, as we did last year. But then hopefully some folks will be able to go check out the farm.
That's really awesome. It's really cool to not only hear about it, but get a chance to actually go and see it as well.
Yeah, and I think one thing that's important so folks can start getting excited about the conference, check out all these farms. It's kind of like with the cannabis world, we're all kind of on Instagram. That's kind of been our touch base for sharing it. Even Steve and I, leading up to this night, we're we're messaging back and forth on IG. It's kind of been this uh, networking space for us. So check out Bryceland Forest Farm on IG, and Daniel really puts out mindful posts that really go deep into his farming practices. He's really doing a lot.
Awesome. Yeah, I'll have to check that out. So tell us was about before we get to that. Yeah, so those of you who don't know, the Regenerative Organic Cannabis Conference is this weekend. You can go to regenerativeorganiccannabis.com to get tickets. It's and if you're looking to stay, I believe there's still rooms left, one or two rooms left at Best Western. At least there was as of 2 days ago. So if you're looking to get a place, the other thing, there's a couple of Airbnbs around that are within 5 to 10 miles that are also available as far as lodging. I know it can be a little bit tricky up there.
Yeah, my local references would be the Benbow Inn. The Benbow Inn will come close or even match, I believe, the Best Western. They're working with us closely as a partnership.
Awesome.
And if you want to go the other way and stay right on the ocean, hot tub, fire ring, all over the bluffs of the ocean, drive past the event by about 20 minutes and you'll be out at Shelter Cove and the inn at the Lost Coast. So you can check out both of those on IG as well, or on the web. It's in at the Lost Coast and the Benbow Inn, and just mention the conference, and they'll be giving out a good rate for everyone.
Wonderful. That's great to hear for people that are coming up that are looking to try and stay. I don't remember exactly how much it is for the weekend, but I know that you can get the tickets over there on Regenerative Organic Cannabis as the full list of speakers, who's speaking and when the different workshops are and things like that.
Yeah, yeah. We could near the end, maybe we'll just pull up on my computer and we'll do a quick rundown so folks kind of have an idea on how the conference is laid out. For the most part, it's science the first day. You know, in my mind, everyone's amazing, but come on. We have the godmother of the soil food web, Dr. Elaine Ingham, who's been on your show before, and she is so supportive and so amazing to what we're trying to do with our cannabis farms and really trying to deliver us with accurate information. Right now the world is looking at us because of our cannabis, and we have a chance to sneak in these farming practices and hopefully make a change in how people perceive regenerative farming. And we call it ancient tech, how our grandfathers farmed. But yeah, i I can't speak enough about Dr. Elaine. So the first day is Friday. Saturday or Friday is mostly science. The second day is kind of getting into stimulants, and when we think of stimulants, you're thinking the chemical stimulants, but it's more so KNF, Korean Natural Farming. If you're not familiar with that, we have the guru of that, Chris Trump, coming, and we're actually going to do some workshops after with a couple local folks participating in that. So you're going to be able to walk out of there with some nuts and bolts and some recipes and be able to go back to your farm and actually engage with some of these practices you learned. And then Sunday, we're going to the seeds and the genetics. And we have Kevin Jordry online from Wonderland Nursery. And those of you that don't know Kevin, give him a follow. He's active on YouTube and just an amazing human, what he's been doing. He was pushing it hard here in Southern Humboldt when a lot of us were kind of still trying to hide behind our gates and, really scared to come out. Kevin's running a clone shop behind the gas station. We're just like, oh my God, I don't know if I could go down there and like park my truck around the corner. But how times have changed, and Kevin, because he came out of the gate so hard and strong, really has so much knowledge to share. And the breeder group that he brought in this year is out of this world. We're just so blessed to have the best of the best, and Kevin be able to go deep and to pick their brains. And you're going to be able to go to these breeders and ask them that long question you've had in mind, whether it's, if I have pollen out in my garden, is it going to be everywhere? Whatever those nuances that you've had in your mind as water neutralize the pollen. I'm not going to answer any of these. I'm going to leave it up to those guys. Um, I breed for different reasons than selling seeds. But we can go into that a little later.
Yeah, so why don't you tell us about yourself and kind of the philosophy behind your farm?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so our farm is located in Southern Humboldt, and it's uh, it's located on a mountain ridge above Benbow, and it's what it was is it's repurposed logging land, we call it. It was clear cut at one point many, many years ago. We have a nice interconnecting web of logging roads that we've either decommissioned over the years and restored. And one of the philosophies that we've come to with our farm is granted, we would like to get to the point of regenerative, but we have a lot of work to get to that point, and we're in the state of repair yet, and knowledge gain. Um, we started 15 years ago up here with growing our little 215 garden amongst our veggies, and that's kind of the space we call our legacy garden. And over the years with 215, it was kind of evolving, much with the 215 industry, or I have a hard time using that word, but it was just forming. Um, and we literally would hear the sheriff fly over and say, if we see 25, 50, 100 plants out in front of someone's house, we know that's 215. And my wife and I would look at each other and we'd be like, oh, well, we only have 20 or whatever it might be that year. Well, we better scale a little bit. So it was kind of this awkward scaling. Um, and we wound up in the end, by the time we got to where we are now with state regs and knowing what our footprint could be, we wound up with, half the farm was smart pots and we're growing in containers. So now over the recent years, past 2, 3, we've been transitioning. And I think that's the biggest story that we have to tell is we really want to bring light to the regenerative movement, yes, and realize we have a lot to learn as a community. And as we go from being pot growers in containers, going to the store, the grow store, to buy a bag of soil, to buy a jug, um, we want to transition from being pot growers to cannabis farmers. And as we do that, we'll be putting our roots into the soil or into the earth in all of our spaces. But I really want to keep that conversation alive around that thought, because we want to make this inclusive, not exclusive. We want to have give folks the ideas and the tools to how to start transitioning back into the earth and to start dumping those containers out and getting their roots back into the ground where possible.
Awesome. You're DEM Pure certified. Do you want to talk about that and maybe some of the loops that you have and maybe a little bit about that certification for people that don't know?
Yeah, for sure. You know, uh, at the moment, you to become DEM Peer certified, you have to meet a minimum of 6 closed loop systems. And for us, we are off the grid. We have solar and hydro. We have rain catchment. We have almost a 400,000 gallon rain catchment reservoir that we store all our water over the winter months because we get a massive amount of rain here. We're in a coastal rainforest. Um, so we store that over the winter and then we use that for our summer growing. So that way, all of the water that is flowing out of our 7 springs and 3 creeks can all go down to the salmon habitat and flow out to the ocean. Some of the other things we do, and let me back up for a minute. When you identify your farm as possibly wanting to be DEM Peer certified, open up the conversation because you might not realize how many closed loops you already participate in. Some of the things we do, we're taking our stock material and our leaf material and we're mulching that back down, whether it's just in place or we're running it through a chipper. So all that's leaving from nutrients that were drawn out of the soil is just the flower material. And even any trimmings of that go back into the soil. So that's one of our closed loop systems. Um, we're regenerating compost on our property from our forest biomass, whether we're trimming trees or pushing brush back or eradicating some Scotch broom. We're taking all that valuable nutrient and putting that back into our soils, collecting seeds. Uh,
Is there any plants you don't intentionally put into your compost that are maybe toxic or for some other reason?
you know, I for our agroforestry model here, what we have going on, no, I can't think of any. And if there was something, I think
Well,
our local farmer network would maybe talk about it. But we're blessed. We have horsetail, stinging nettle, so many of these amazing holistic plants um, and beneficial plants grow on our property already.
That's awesome. What are some of the different methods that you're using? I see you do hugel beds, I believe, correct?
Yeah,
Um,
we're transitioning to those for sure. And we have some of the traditional hugels, and there's a neat little cartoon you can find if you Google hugel beds, and it's like a 2.5 minute cartoon that breaks it down really quickly if you're not familiar with a hugelkultur. Um, but we've kind of experimented a lot, and we're trying to transition as rapidly as possible to bring biodiversity and microbes into our growing medium or our soils that have been devoid of that because they were in containers. So we've kind of developed this hugel light, and it's a bit of sequestering some recycled carbon. We use cardboard boxes for storing our cannabis during processing. So we're recycling that cardboard back in. We're putting a little bit of straw and some leaf material in and around that. And I know most of you have probably left a cardboard box out in the rainstorm and you come back within about a week or so. You pull that back and it's loaded with worms. And for me, when I'm seeing earthworms, that's kind of the canary in the coal mine. When you're growing with biology, it's if you got some earthworms, you're on the right track. So, the canary is still singing, so to speak. Um, so we've developed this kind of hugel light where we'll put those down. We'll put down that cardboard and that straw and that little bit of carbon, and we'll dump out these containers that we had that were smart pots or whatever type of container and lay that on there and create these low and low mounds that way. Because one of my theories is when you're building a hugelkultur, um, yeah, I almost think of it as stoking a fire. And if you're going to throw in some big all-nighters, well, you're going to have a lot of heat, but it's also going to take a lot before that can get going. You need a lot of kindling and some time. So what we did last year was we just worked with just kindling and we had this quick burst. So granted, it's not a long term solution. Like a hugel, some people feel you're going to get 3, 4, 5, 6, sometimes 8 years before they come to full potential, where ours kind of go off in like a season or two between wood chips and straw and cardboard. So we're layering it like lasagna at this point. So that's why I don't, there's probably a better term for it, but I'm kind of calling it a hugel light.
that's cool. I haven't heard of that concept before. It's really neat. So what are some of the other amendments that you're using in there aside from those three?
Yeah, we we have if you've been to Humboldt County, you know all about our grass-fed cows. So we're also trading some firewood, doing a bit of a barter system, trading some firewood with some of these dairy farmers and so forth, and getting barnyard scrapings and manures. Um, I haven't gone down the road of animals other than my dogs and cats yet up here because we have mountain lions and we have bears and I finally have fruit on my fruit trees that between my dogs and my good fence, the bears don't really have much interest in coming over the fence or the mountain lions don't really mess with us. So I haven't brought in chickens and I haven't brought in goats yet. We're so close to wanting to go down that road, but haven't gone there yet. So we really have to work with our community, and that's kind of one thing I put out to farms. It's you, I don't feel a closed loop needs to be just within the boundaries of the farm. I feel, try to get as much on the boundaries of your farm and then maybe on your road system or your immediate community, and then, maybe within your county if you need to. That's just my philosophy on closed loops.
That's awesome. So do you do any KNF style or any kind of ferments or compost teas? And what are you using in that regard?
When it comes to compost teas, we had a partner on the farm last summer, Corey O'Neill, who builds brewers, these amazing up to 450-gallon brewers, and he was kind of our compost brew master. Um, and I'm gonna have to pick it up again this year. So he had a really nice premix. I know at the event we're going to have Seth from Beneficial Living Center, and he has this philosophy around tea brew to really give the farmer or the brewmaster a lot of creative ideas, but some parameters to work with. Um, so I'm going to be, kind of coming up with my own recipe this year for it. And when it comes to KNF, you know, we've I haven't gone deep into the KNF, but I've done kind of uh, a soak of our um, cover crops and add a little bit of my mind is going blank here for a minute. Um, I can't think of the fermented molasses. Got a hand here with me. It'll come back to me.
Lab, lactobacillus.
No, but
Oh,
I'll come back to that. But yeah. So what
FPGA.
we would do is we would do a soak with this material and water and let it go to an anaerobic state and get to the point of stink, and then we would bubble it for about 24 hours. And I'm still dodging and weaving. A couple times I pulled it off where it was amazing, and I had beautiful IMO across the top, and it smelled good, and it was amazing. And those went into my garden. And then a couple times I couldn't get rid of the stank, but that doesn't mean it doesn't have microbes in it, as you know. So those went into my walkways. In my mind, I was dealing with things that were decomposing rapidly. So I put those into my walkways where I had a lot of wood chip and carbon I was trying to break down. So I'm trying to figure that space out, and I'm not afraid to try things. And, sometimes the science experiment gets away from me, but you don't know unless you go. So we're all about going, whether it's dumping the smart pots out and going that route, or just start soaking shit.
So you do a lot of you work or doing some or go into all the meetings and stuff for the Appellations,
Yes.
and the app and all that stuff. Do you want to tell everybody about what an Appalachia is? It's not just the mountains on the East Coast, and the concept behind it and what that's all about.
Yeah, so Appellations, you might know of it for wine or cheese, and it would be, Champagne is a region, or Bordeaux is a region. Um, and when it comes to California, they actually put some laws in place that give us, I'm looking at my computer for the date exactly. We have until January 1 of 2021 to come up with what we want these to look like. And they can refer to growing practices, whether it's going to be 20% native soils, what, there's a lot, the jury's out, and I should say the jury's not out yet, and we have a lot of meeting to do. I've been a part of so far just 3 local meetings, and we're trying to navigate the space and really figure it out. Um, we're fortunate to have those laws on the books that we're going to be able to really help steer the boat to get them in place. But um, yeah, we have a lot more to figure out around it. And a really good group of motivated people, soil scientists, um, lawmakers, lots of cannabis enthusiasts, local farmers from each of these regions. You know, out in Palo Verde, which is the kind of the southern Humboldt, Mendo, Trinity border. Um, Palo Verde kind of went off their fire department um, network zone and started to map out some corridors. Here in Benbow, we're starting to look at what would make sense for us, and there might be a larger appellation or some sub appellations. Um, so it's everyone wants to claim a space. It's like have forming kickball teams, but there's a lot of work to be done on it. And we're really fortunate A lot of work has been done already by Mendocino Appellations Project, and they really brought a lot of credibility to what is going to be happening. And that I think just reformed into CAPS. It was MAPS, and now it's California Appellations Project. So it's really, they have really good, accurate information on there. I'm just starting to put my toe in the water and become familiar. And when I, for me personally, I look at my space on my farm and our growing practices, and that's where we could lead in the breeding a little bit because of my location and on the mountain and my aspect to the sun. I've I have amazing sun. I face northeast with some south, and I have amazing sun. But when you get to about October 1st, it shuts down pretty quickly. So it was almost year one that I was like, I got to start looking around at my genetic choices. And I started breeding for, I guess you could say, for my terroir, my environmental influences. Um, and I would navigate southern Humboldt and come across some friends' gardens and see something coming in really early. And maybe it came in super early, but it was short and bushy and not really that great of a producer. So I really navigated through um, what made sense to come in, that September 1 to September 20. Maybe I could have some things come in as late as October 7, but that's about as deep as I go for my growing year. Um, but what happened was early on, like, okay, so let's go back 15 years ago. We had Proposition 215, and it's pretty aggressive market. Um, what started happening, not only were we coming in early, but we were getting our product to market early. And not only that, we're Humboldt County, it's like a light, or I mean, a faucet turns on and the rains come. And we would actually harvest a lot of years before we even saw a drop of rain. So we had no rain, no mold, and it really became a really neat niche for us. Um, and we felt really blessed. And our flagship strain or signature strain would be Coyote Blue, and that is still out there, and we're really blessed to have that evolution to come up with that strain. And we've got a couple others, some we'll call them Jack crosses, um, and yeah.
So what are some of the, is that all the different things you're working with at the moment, or you got some other stuff you're working with at all, or?
Yeah. So the kind of what we have in our wheelhouse is we have some grape ape from Woodman Creek north of Laytonville. And that was one of the first things I was able to acquire from some good friends that were breeders down there and bring that up here to AlpenGlow. And that strain did really well. And we haven't grown that out for flower in many years. So we're probably going to revisit that. We have an original cotton candy from our Benbow neighborhood here from about 18 years ago. And that's one of the genetic lines of our Coyote Blue. Coyote Blue is kind of a hybrid of Sweet Tooth or Cotton Candy, depends what breeder you talk to, Trainwreck, and Blueberry. Um, and then we have the Grape Ape, and then we also have a XJ13, which is kind of that strong jack nose, is what I would refer to it as. Um, and we have that working in its way to with cotton candy. Cotton candy is one of our baselines. It really puts out a really nice Christmas tree. Nice spacing between bud sites, and just a really, really strong plant on its own, cultivar. Um, and let me back up a little bit on the Coyote Blue. When it first came to us, it was called Blueberry Trainwreck, and some of its origins came from Salmon Creek area. But it was this it was really early finisher. It would come in, late late August, and but it was short, bushy, and had a lot of dense red hair, and would just kind of go off like a firecracker. It would just start flowering like you know, July and then be done in August, and really wasn't that great of a cultivar. And then we brought in the cotton candy, and that gave it nice spacing between bud sites and really nice shape and form. And we're really happy where it's at right now.
Nice. So what are some of the traits you look for when you're breeding?
Uh, Size and shape. I breed for farming. Um, I like to have size and shape. Um, I prefer uh, a nice round bud shape. Um, you get into some of the excuse me for a minute. You get into some of the more modern genetics and or that are super high in THC. Excuse me, I'm gonna need a quick break.
No worries. How you doing, Roger? There, I'll mute his mic. How you doing, Roger?
I'm muted. Can you hear me?
There you go.
Yeah, I'm still struggling with that. Well, it's jumping back between being really warm here and then really chilly and rainy, and it can't shake this freaking thing I've got. I
how's
think
how's the mullen working for you?
it works. I haven't had it in a couple. I haven't used it in a couple of days because frankly, I'm not big on smoking stuff. I mean, I smoke flower because it's the only way I got to really do it, but. And the mullein doesn't taste bad, and it actually works. I find that I'm not staying up on the schedule of continually smoking it day after day after day. But I got where I felt really good the other day, so I didn't really feel like I needed to continue using it. And I've got it sitting right here on my desk, but I just it's just kicking my ass, man. I tell you, it's like I think I'm feeling better, and then I feel like crap all of a sudden. I've been sleeping a lot. I don't know if it's what's causing it, but I've been tired a lot lately. So I don't know. Maybe my arteries are clogging up too much. Gonna have to get away from all that greasy fried food or something. I don't know. Other than that, same old, same old. No, put in a bunch of work at the forum the last couple of days with some issues going on there, and I posted a bunch of Chris Trump's YouTube videos on there today. Or yeah, today. I have to consider whether it's yesterday or today, um, to get everybody, an idea, an easy way to start looking at that. I need to find one of his videos where he's actually explaining like a summary of the whole process instead of just how to make an input. Because if you're not already into it or hadn't been listening to people and what their uses are, you kind of don't know, why is he making this, So I gotta find one. I think he's got 2 or 3 videos where he explains the whole concept. I need to get that up there too. Uh, Other than that, nothing. Given it, finally got around to getting all my Christmas essay contest winners out together on the forum and advised and posted all about who won. We gave away. Shoot, I think we probably gave away almost $1,000 worth of goods. Between uh, genetics and T-shirts. So everybody's really happy about that. I finally got around to it, but I was so sick. When I'm sick, I don't feel like hoarding over a computer all day, and getting stuff done, reading, and because with my eyes, reading's a pain in the butt. So I like to be in a good mood and feeling good. And dadgummit, I forgot to buy coffee at the store last night, so that's another problem. I need my coffee in the morning to get going. So other than that, that's about it for me. Just same old. You talk to me so often, nothing's really changed.
We'll go back to AlpenGlow here.
Yeah.
So what traits do you look for? You were talking size and shape, but is there anything in particular you've tried to work towards? Oh, 1 second, muted for whatever reason.
Is that better?
There we go.
Fantastic.
Now we can hear you.
Yeah. So what I personally look for is size and shape um, of the plant itself. I'm looking for nice spacing between bud sites and not something that's not over leafy And I think I found that with the hybrid that I'm going for, you know, I don't, I don't know if I want to open up the can of worms, but if we're going to talk indica, sativa, or broadleaf or narrow
No,
leaf,
go ahead. Open the can. That's fine.
yeah, I think I'll just stick with broadleaf or narrow leaf. So I prefer the medium leaf cultivar, and that would fall into the hybrid category. Um, I look for effects as well. I'm an active person, and I kind of really like daytime cannabis, I call it, something uplifting, creative, and that's what most of my strains do for me. I do like to have what I call a hammer in the toolbox there. So days I've overdone it, my back's out or so forth, I can reach for something else. But for the most part, most of my strains are uplifting. That's how that's what drew me to cannabis was, I was skiing almost every day, and partners I was skiing with were smoking cannabis, and I was eating Advil by the bottle, and realized early on that that wasn't working so well, and you could have a completely active lifestyle and compete or ski at a high level, while enjoying cannabis.
Absolutely.
One thing, Steve, that I'd like to talk to that I, I, we mentioned early at the beginning about the world is looking at us, for our cannabis, and the world is all embarking in this new journey that has never really been done at the scale it's going to be happening, right? Um, and we have this opportunity right now, and I'm working with some folks in Uruguay, and we have these opportunities right now to really help uh, form what the cannabis farm could look like, or plantation, or whatever you want to call it, and how the whole farm to table ecosystem can look like. Um, there's so much attention that could be put into a mindful build out of a farm that, it kind of takes my words away from me for a minute, because it's, when before have we been able to know that something is going to be so massive, and how do we draw it out? I almost feel like when the settlers were coming across this country and doing what they were doing, but they started building out these towns, and you can tell, like, Main Street used to be way over there, but now the freeway's here. Well, at what capacity do we have to think as these countries are building out their cannabis industries, and how to be mindful of the environment and what's available for inputs and infrastructure, and how do we work with what's there, um, to do this right? Um, and I know you do a lot of work around this with your aquaponics, and I believe you're going all over the world, or most countries, or at
Oh
least the
yeah.
country. Yeah, so you're seeing it too, and it's, you know, the the build out takes money and time and energy, and people want to know how they can scale, and how that looks like and how that feels like. But I think we really got to expand our minds right now, and not look huge as in, like, what can we conquer, but how can we really help this community build? And even in here in Southern Humboldt, we're realizing that, you know cannabis is here because of an evolution. The Back to the Land movement from the late 60s, early 70s, and this logging land that was cheap and folks could hide out in the mountains, and so forth. If you were to come and build out a farm here right now, it doesn't really make sense. The environment is amazing, but the topography is challenging. So we're really trying to work as a collective group here now, and bring I guess I would say, the horsepower of all these uh, farms peppered all over the mountainsides, to really bring some efficiencies to workers, and uh, inputs, and sharing knowledge and sharing equipment and space. And we're really trying to meet as a group. And you mentioned about the Appellations project. It's like we're starting to see, you know, 2 dozen of the same people at the same meetings, and that 2 dozen is turning into 4 dozen, and the word is spreading, and it really feels good to start rebuilding our community again, um, from in a grassroots way.
Yeah, I know it was really different this year at I don't know if you were at Vancouver. I think you were, aren't you?
Yep.
Yeah. So it was really different this year compared to all the other stuff that I've been to because everyone kind of realized if we don't work together, corporate cannabis is going to get rid of us. So, and that was really different, and it was really cool to see everyone kind of working together and not trying, not thinking of everyone as competition. You're not really there, competing with anyone else if you're doing things at this level. You're all going to do just fine. You are going to do well because it's not a huge sector of the market as a whole. You know what I mean?
Yeah, Steve, I think it's important for people right now to take a little time, really uh, go deep into their community, and realize that it's important to hold true to their values, and really not settle at this moment. Um, if something doesn't look right, doesn't feel right, um, change it, talk about it, get it figured out, because we can't start over too many more times. Um, it's really important to get it right, and we're gonna get some bumps and bruises along the way, but um, we really want to try to get this right.
Yeah, I know we're both involved with the Dem Pure Collective, which
Can
is
we
in the
can we
work.
talk can we talk about that yet? Is it?
Yeah, I think we can speak of its existence, but I don't think we can talk much
We
beyond.
can. We can talk about it a little bit, like kind of got official word to spread the news.
Yeah, I kind of figure when everyone posted it up today that we can at least mention that it's a thing now. But
Yeah. One point on that, it was, you
Oh,
know,
there it is.
it, we were told to kind of uh, mention what our capacity is on each farm, and I said, oh, we get to figure out what our horsepower is. Um, so when I saw all those farms listed on one page, and that's not even all of them. There's more and more coming online. And you look at the global network of regenerative farms all communicating. Communicating is the first thing we need to do. And having the Dempeer network to communicate through is absolutely amazing. I know how it is right now. I have folks coming in from the conference, and they're hearing about it in Mexico. I've got someone coming from Mexico to the conference that, is going to be staying with us. And we have Kenny coming down from Mount Baker, from Eagle Trees Farm. And
I
so,
have a I have a guy coming in that I've been talking with. We're going to be working on a project when the state goes to in Australia. He's flying all the way from Australia to come to this.
yeah, yeah, we're getting folks reaching out to us from Israel, and everyone has a different uh, a role in this as well. And it's interesting to see. Um, it's not just farms. We need more than just farms. We need other parts of business handled. So it's really neat to see all these like-minded folks coming together.
Yeah, I know the depth of knowledge with this group is psychotic. It's insane. It's the largest group of organic producers as a group on the planet by like an order of magnitude of 10 or something like that. It's just stupid. It's not even close when you actually look at the numbers of volume of pounds produced. It's insane.
It's definitely humbling when you're in the room you know, with all of them. It's I think there's a good saying, and it's I think my friend's grandmother says it. You're only an expert when you're not at home. then you're just a common person when you're at home. So,
I like that.
Joshua, are you ready for the conference?
Yeah. It's been a busy day, just kind of people calling, trying to get last minute information and stuff. But yeah, we're totally ready. We're gonna have some delicious food prepared by Season, and we got some awesome donations from the community. Um, Different folks have been like donating. Like we have Bryceland Forest Farms donating a bunch of vegetables and greens. I don't know the details of what because I'm not organizing the food end of it, but I know Rio is involved with his. I can't remember the name of the co-op. Do you know the name of Rio's co-op? We lose you. But yeah, so we got a couple awesome things going on. We got a couple sponsors for the meals. We got Vital Garden Supply sponsoring a meal, and a regenerative hemp cultivator is just we just started conversations and they want to sponsor a meal, and so we're going to come on board with them. I can't remember their exact name because we just emailed like a little bit ago. So just kind of tagging on to what you were saying, everybody's really coming together, and it's really cool to be around so many people and humbling all these heads.
So
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
yeah, that's the Sohum Guild you're referring to, and that came out of a space that a couple farms rented, Rio from Lady Sativa and Humboldt Highline. There was this downtown location, Garberville, and they just knew they had to have it, and we started doing some meetings there, and now the Sohum Guild is kind of forming out of that, and we don't know where it's going to go, but so far we've been meeting as groups, and that's where we have some of these meetings that I was referring to early on. And yeah, we're
Is
super
this
blessed.
is it cannabis specific like group or guild, or is it what's the scope?
Yeah, so far it is at the moment. Yeah, so far.
Cool, that's awesome.
Yeah, and I don't know if you caught this at the beginning, but we also might have uh, Steve was talking about how remote Bryceland is, but we might have internet this year. We're not sure yet, but that was possibly coming up in the works.
Yeah, we're working on it. um, yeah.
Well, on this dead,
Yeah.
I wanted to say you were bringing up good food, and we don't want to leave out something. Wendy was on the show last Tuesday, and Wendy says she's making her homemade from scratch lasagna noodles for the lasagna at one of the dinners. So, just give her a shout out to that. I don't know if that has changed, but that's what she said last week, and we don't want to miss out on that
No, sir.
No, that sounds amazing.
because she's going to be in there with season cooking. So I know you've had a long. I always try to help Josh out with his own information
You
because
can't
he's got so
remember.
much in his head and he works so damn hard that yeah, I see it. Yeah.
Yeah, it's real bad. I go to call and make reservations for hotels. They're like, "How many rooms you need?" I'm like, "I don't know, half dozen or so. Like, let's just go down the list." And they get so frustrated with me because I'm not an organizer. I just don't have that mind, and I haven't put enough time in those skill set things. So I'm just really thankful that everyone has been patient with me in my last minute planning and just the way I can pull stuff together. So yeah, I don't know. I'm really stoked for this weekend. I fly out Thursday morning, and I'll be staying at we're all going to stay at the Benbow Inn, which is right down by your place. It's like a four-wheeler right away, isn't it, Craig?
Yeah, it sure is. It's about 3.5 miles from our place, and we're sure blessed to have that as a meeting communal space. For multiple generations, it's been, hey, I'll meet you at the Benbow, and then you can bring someone up to your farm. It's kind of been the space to meet and vet people and
And they've
hang
kind
out.
of they just kind of restored it not too long ago. Is that correct?
Yeah, they've done a massive add-on, and I think everyone's going to be really pleased. They're really, really supportive of what we're trying to do. They're working with a group called that formed here locally, and they've launched a campaign called Elevate the Magic, and we're able to tap into the bed tax here locally and promote tourism around cannabis. So that's that's just absolutely amazing. We're gonna do a Meet the Farmer series this spring, and yeah, folks, check it out. You can check it out on IG or online. It's called Elevate the Magic, and you'll see a lot of these local farms on there.
Yeah, and it's really cool that the stuff I've seen, you've actually been really heavily involved with it. And it's I don't know. I'm just really impressed every time I see you putting yourself out there. You're prime example of a regenerative farmer, and so it's real cool just to see you getting out there, dude. For sure. It's thanks for the work you do for us all, and spreading it.
Thank you, thank you. It's my family chose. I've got a wife and two daughters, or they have me. I want to be careful how I phrase that. Um, but yeah, we chose to come out of the green closet a couple years ago, uh, and that's when we literally, went out on a magazine cover as a cannabis family. And from that point forward, we knew it was full steam ahead. And we're trying to constantly, number one, educate, number two, normalize, and then the rest follows. So I'll be the first to admit I'm learning the process of like we were talking earlier around KNF and some of these deeper regenerative practices. And I really want to make it an inclusive space so people that have been doing this for two two generations or so, and they know one way of doing it, and know that keep an open mind and try some of these other practices. And yeah, we're trying to show our wins and our failures just the same. I know you're open about that as well, Joshua, quite a bit.
Yeah, I mean, I love the. Actually, I was gonna. Have you seen the Zeros of the Farm tag that Heroes of the Farm does?
No,
Where
I
he does.
haven't.
Yeah, if you get some time, Google, search the Zeros of the Farm tag or hashtag on Instagram, and it's basically that. It's like, here it is. Here's where I fucked up. Here's my failures, and like, let's share them so we can all like learn from them and just like remember that we all are human, and it's not like picture perfect Instagram life. Like it's a rough life being a farmer. You know.
Somebody made some cotton candy with spider mites.
hmm hmm Yeah, it's tons of clones just full of spider mites and tractors in the ditches and like every right. I was gonna actually bring up just a second ago, like last year when we put on the microscope course, it was so awesome to have you there and your worker, your friend Corey, and then also
Corey.
your daughter. Your daughter was there. I can't remember her name, but your oldest daughter. And it was just
Yeah.
so impressive to have it. She passed the course. She was in there like calling out nematodes and fungi. It was awesome.
Yeah, that's one of the greatest gifts we can do is pass this knowledge along to our children. Um, and we don't even have to speak of cannabis. We can just speak of farming and caring for the land and how to have a cottage business and make it successful. Because as you know, we're marketing, we're branding, we're producing, um, we're doing all these things at the same time, and it's literally just myself, my wife, and my daughters, and we'll get a little bit of farm help year to year. But that we're even cutting back on farm help just because there's not enough. The hog's not fat enough anymore. We're looking at how to get our systems lean, and we actually got rid of one of our light depths because it was too laborious. We're putting a little bit more product towards extraction, and a little bit less. We should capture all of our product to the whole flower market, but that doesn't work when you have to trim it all just as a family and get it to market. You can process it a lot quicker with a lot less people if you're going to send a portion of it to extraction. Um, so we're making some changes around that, and yeah, it's it's
How's that
definitely
feel?
it's exciting. It's exciting. My daughters are really starting to know their way around the farm. They really know their way around soil building and my younger daughter Josephine, we're still at the point where we still need to bring in beneficial insects that we purchase. Our local ecosystem isn't fully charged up yet with all the balance of the insects that we need. So when we bring those in, she busts out our dissecting scope and she makes sure that we get what we're paying for. And she's identifying bugs and soil, pests and microbes. And it's a blast, man. It's a blast having your kids grow up like this. That'd be the biggest closed loop I could ever bring all the way through 25, 30 years from now, is having my daughters carry on not just the farm, but the farm as they know it and grew up on. And I think that's really important for people to realize. That's we're working together and joining uh, forces with other farms. That's where it becomes really real. We're really trying not to bring on any investment money, as we haven't yet so far, and it's definitely been a challenge, but we want to own our farm, um, and all of it 10, 15, 20 years from now. We want to pass something down to them, even if we got to back off a little bit and be a little smaller and maybe not cultivate in the same way we did past years with more light depth.
Just to circle
Cool.
back what we were talking about a little bit earlier, what traits do you look at in your males when you're looking about for breeders?
Yeah, for I'm old school when it comes to my breeding. I feel um, I look for structure and I go for the stem rub. Still not doing any lab analysis for those precursors that are readily available. I'm still doing it from the old way, and I'll pull three males out that I think are amazing, and um, I'll add maybe two or three to that selection. And as friends come by or other folks, I'll have them pull up to it and give a stem rub. And, 9 times out of 10, we all end up pulling the same one. Um, so that's how we do that.
Did you? I came in late, obviously, but did you talk about any of your strains that you're yet?
Yeah, we did. We talked about Coyote Blue. We briefly talked about our Cotton Eye Jack, and we talked about some of the genetics that we're holding for breeding into the future. The cotton candy or sweet tooth, depends who you're talking to. That and our grape ape.
Oh,
Yeah,
cool.
we really, I've really settled into a couple lines that, for me, I try to keep the noise down and I try to work with what's making sense and what I have access to. Um, I try. I'm one to keep wanting to refine and get to this certain thing I'm looking for, and a terpene profile. But one thing I'm going to do this year, though, gotten a hold of some Landrace strains. Three different ones are what I'm calling Landrace. Came from remote parts of the world, and definitely sativa or narrow leaf cultivar leading. Um, and I'm gonna bring some of those up and see how I can work with those and start on a new little era of what we're doing here.
If you don't mind me asking, what strains or where do they come or
Yeah,
originate
locations.
allegedly?
I've got some from southeastern or southwestern Africa, um, from Mexico, and everyone will give a chuckle there, but I'll post them this summer. Um, and we have something from Colombia as well. So um, that's what we have. And we have this space around, Joshua's been to our space around our ant flat garden where it kind of rolls off dramatically. So I'm going to plant these sativas down over the bank. So when they get to be 12, 15 feet tall, you'll be able to stand on the upper terrace and they'll just be like a hedgerow of sativa. um, so it's kind of, I want to mess with it with like using the space that I have, having these tall, skinny plants come up, um, and also see how they work with our environment here.
So you're going to kind of terrace it off the side of the hill? Is that what you're going to do?
Yeah, yeah, it is already, and we're not doing
Oh,
anything
oh, cool.
below, yeah, below the 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 terraced wall. It's like a 4 foot wall. Um, and because it wouldn't get sunlight, but the
Right.
sativa is going to come up and match the upper terrace is what I'm thinking. So, you know, I'll I'm I'll I'll be actively posting how that project goes.
I'm sure they'll reach for the sun.
Yeah, they're going to get up there, I'm sure, in no time at all. Um, and then, we have right further down our ridge line here in Benbow, we have Lady Sativa, we have Rio. So the name says it all. He's got all day full dial. And he actually looks at spaces where he's maybe not getting as much sun, um, so he can mess with some other cultivars. So it's nice having uh, an the opposite end of the spectrum here. We have someone that can really go deep into some of those sativas, where I have a little more challenge working with those longer finishers.
Yeah.
What you piqued my interest on the grape ape, just because I have this pie hoe that I've been really in love with, and it's got that grape ape on cherry pie, and then the Tahoe in it. So yeah, I was curious, just how does it run for you? How does it finish? When does it finish? Where'd you get
Yeah,
it? Whatever.
yeah, we can start cutting on the grape ape. I haven't grown it out in probably 6, maybe 7 years. But our date for that one is that full moon in late September, around the 21st. So that's when we can start cutting on it, and by October 7th, it's completely done. We're really, really happy with it. So being up in your zone, up in Washington, yeah, we got to bring that in a little bit sooner for you
Yeah.
guys. Um,
Is
and
that you hold that in seed form or in clone
Oh
form?
yeah, no, I
Clone.
don't hold I don't hold anything in clone.
Oh, you don't.
I'm off the grid, so we're looking to hopefully work with some other folks to hold some of our genetics in clone as we move forward, and can expand our breeding a little more rapidly. But at the moment, we're working only with seed.
Cool.
Seed zone,
How
sun
long have you
grown.
been doing that? How long have you been only seed?
Um, our well, our what we call our full term, that's all from seed, and it's been like that the whole time. Um, we we normally have run clone just in our light depth situations. And those at this moment we'll get from one of two nurseries here in Humboldt County that we really trust and love. We're not so much into trying to work with uh, clone houses or nurseries that are too far out of our ecosystem. Um, just really not into bringing up, bugs and pests from Salinas that maybe could really run wild here in my ecosystem. Um, Everyone has their own, balance, and I try to keep that with even getting my cuttings sourced locally.
Cool. What I'm just shooting from the hip. What are you excited about in terms of like nutrients that you're going to make this summer? Compost or maybe preps, or I don't know. What are you jazzed on?
Yeah, I guess I'm more so excited about the beds that we've prepared, the hugels and these hugel lights that we built. You were at my farm 2 years ago when we still had some smart pots, and we took smart pots to what I felt as far as we could push them. We wrapped the inside of them with cardboard. We had, biology, we had earthworms in there, cover crops. We were growing potatoes in them, but we finally dumped those out. So it's just seeing our soil develop over time, and bringing in the native forest humus from our property, and the native shale that we harvest off the sides of our roads, and just seeing our soil develop is probably the most exciting thing for me. And to getting that point when it can not manage, but when you get to the point of a regenerative situation when you don't have to do as much, and it's taking care of itself. That's the ultimate goal with regenerative farming, I feel. Minimal input and just a closed loop system. What about for you? What is one of your what you've gone to Chris Trump's classes, and you've been gathering a lot of really good accurate knowledge yourself. What are you excited about?
I have a big property. Well, you have a bigger property than me, but my property is just really destroyed, and I'm relatively new to it and 2 years at it. So I have a lot of property healing to do. So I've got big brewers that I've been making 200. I have 200-gallon brewers, and so I've made a huge. I'm about to inoculate, I guess. I got 20 yards of compost that I bought like from an organic compost here locally, just whatever low quality shit, type deal. I smelled it, I scoped it. It was, it is what it is. But I'm going to inoculate it with a bunch of the good guys. So I have them, stabilizing in these brewers, and then I'm going to rebuild the pile. And I'm also going to add about 8 yards of mushroom blocks, which I know is something you do, spent mushroom blocks.
Yeah, that's a secret weapon, man. Um, that and that's something that we talked about at the beginning. I said before we get to the point of regenerative farming, we're kind of in, land repair. And
Yeah.
Nick from Green Source Gardens really brings that up. Um, and it takes some time and going with best practices and being diligent about keeping cover crops going at all times. That just a plant growing on the earth is sequestering carbon just by growing. Um, and the continuing of that cycle is really important.
Yeah, hell yeah. So I'm making basically, I got 8 yards. Kenny hooked me up and we went and got these mushroom blocks. And so I got 28 yards and I'm going to inoculate a huge hugel that I can then pull from this summer and make compost tea that I can apply over my 10 acres. I'm going to one of my goals is to get a system where I can, um, can't think, but put it in the earth with a needle, like
Yep.
plunge it down in there and get that compost tea down in 3 or 4 feet to break up the compaction zones.
One thing I've learned about the mushroom blocks, and Kenny actually, I think, spoke or posted about it. It's important to keep those things moist, and like I have them stored in a shaded area along a forest line, um, because that mycelium will dry out and
Yeah.
it won't be as alive as it could be. Um, and yeah, that's just one thing to really consider. What I like to do is if you know you're going to have compost coming in, even if it's just quickly throwing some of like the size of a football, if the truck is dumping it or you're dumping out of your dump trailer, throw some of those blocks under the pile and you'll be amazed at what happens. You'll get the webbing uh, building out from there. You'll get earthworms right in that location. Oftentimes I'll post where I just roll some of these like little loaves of bread over the mushroom block, and under it for about 3-4 inches it's like it feels like coffee grounds, and it's just all worm casting. Um, it's really interesting once you start utilizing those. We also get inoculated straw from oyster mushrooms.
Oh, nice.
And we'll pull that apart, and we call, like my kids call it, making pepperonis, and we'll shove those in like straw bales. You're going to see this year we have that border in our legacy garden that we hold back the earth with straw bales, and we let them decompose over the year, and we flip that onto the top of the bed, and then we bring in new straw bales. So this might be the last year we need to bring in new straw bales because we've kind of reached that healed space, and we have enough of that decomposing straw mixed in with that, uh, you know, what I would call pretty lame spangletine moss potting soil that we had to work with to begin with. Um, and it's kind of interesting, someone posted, uh, or someone was emailing me. We get on all these email lists because of people trying to sell things, and they were boasting their soil that it has this many fungicides in it and this many miticides in it. And it's like, that's real. And I've witnessed it. We were digging around here with Elaine last year and we were showing her the potting soil where it was like within an inch of the native soil, you had biology, but you got deeper into the potting soil and there was nothing. It's really incredible. It takes work to heal or to bring biology into some of these potting mixes because they're literally contaminated getting them because they would go off with so many uh, bugs or fungus gnats are the first thing I think of, or springtails when you open up a tote. Um, we don't do that anymore, thank goodness. But
What are
there
your
was there
opinion
was
on
no balance.
springtails?
What's that?
What's your opinion on springtails?
Within balance. I mean, I had it. It was probably 8 years ago was one of our last times we scaled with this old way of thinking, and I poured out the tote into the hole I dug in the earth, and I'm watering, and it was it was fizzing with springtails. And that year we were crushed. Our plants ran yellow, and they were just my our plants and our native biology couldn't keep up. Um, so I think all these little critters and microbes within balance. That's what we're searching for. And that's one thing that we try to do. We try to treat our whole farm as a living biome. And we're not looking at, you know, let's back up for a minute. And if you're growing on a cleared flat, and then maybe you put weed barrier down, and then you have your containers, and now you bring a drip irrigation to it and you plant your cannabis plant in that. So now you have the only oasis in the arid desert for anything that wants to live. You're trying to keep your cannabis alive, but any critter, even it's a mouse, rat, microbe, pest, it's coming to one space and they're just going. It's like, Vegas. It's all happening in one space and it gets crazy. We're now we have cover crops everywhere. We're treating our entire farm as a living biome. So those pest pressures can be out at the neighbors where they're growing that way. Um, and the more and more diversity we bring to all these farms and our neighbors and our community, we're not going to have these big influxes. And we're going to have a better environment as a community and then as a county and then as a whole region.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's really awesome. What are some of the other maybe more unique techniques or things that you've kind of figured out you think are maybe less used or less talked about by other growers that you use on your farm?
I think in our light depth situations, we started, we obviously, well, I don't want to say obviously because you don't know, but some of the things we're doing is we pull our covers off, our greenhouse roof off for the winter because we're kind of this hybrid of a light depth. Um, we don't have high pressure sodiums or metal halides in our greenhouses. We're just blocking some of the native sun. Um, so we're only getting one extra harvest with a light depth situation. So for the wintertime, we don't have electrical in these greenhouses, so we can pull the roof off and plant our cover crops and let the rain flush through. And we bring in forest humus and we're building our soils in our greenhouses. Um, and then what we've done is so we'll plant 16 to 18 on center, depending on the cultivar we're using. And then when it comes to replant, we don't disturb anything. We just move over. If we planted 16 on center, we'll move over 8 inches and plant in that middle space, leaving the little stumps behind just for the microbes. And we don't want to disturb that root zone. I think mycorrhizal needs, Joshua might have better actual numbers on this, but 60 to 90 days. So when you're pulling a
90.
crop in 60 days and you're pulling all the roots out, digging, tilling, replant, you're never, ever going to achieve that living soil situation. So I think trying to bring the living soils in, and, when we first started doing it, we thought too that, oh, we're going to have mold issues because you're leaving that little stump behind. You don't at all. We have no issues, and we have cover crop growing. If anything, what we've learned is sometimes our cover crop gets a little bit aggressive and too thick and holds, believe it or not, holds too much moisture. Um, so what we'll do is we'll go in and we'll just rip it out by hand, leaving the roots in, and then we'll either put that into our compost, or Corey would run last summer, he would make some ferments out of that, and we would feed that back into the plant. So we're actually growing biomass for nutrient in the understory of our light depths. So that went really well, and I think just the staggered planning. So not pulling those cubes out, or the little stalk, um, where the clones were, and just leaving them in place, and they go away. I've done a lot of posts around that. Joshua, have you messed with that, leaving your second run in place, or your first
Yeah,
run in
yeah,
place?
yeah. I've actually been doing that for a long time, man, like 10 years. Um,
Nice.
yeah, yeah. I've been kind of doing the one thing I've actually switched. I used to do cover crops like the peas and rye and clovers. And I had the same thing where it would grow so much. So I finally had a whole system down where I was like basically mowing the grass indoors,
Yeah,
and I had it, I had it down. I could tell you, you do it week 1, week 3, and then you harvest, and I turn the whole thing over, and uh, and I lightly till in a little bit more compost and replant my cover crop, putting my straw down. As soon as it popped, I put my plants in right next to the other ones, and away we'd go. But actually, Elaine told us last year. I told a group of us, and I think at the conference, about using some more perennial low growing covers, like creeping lavender,
yeah.
diachondra, isotoma. And so that's what I just had to I pulled all the soil out of my beds in my greenhouse to put in a radiant
I
PEX
saw that.
tubing. Yeah, and so I put it back in, and so this was a good time, and I had ordered the seed a while back and had it saved. So I just threw down and broadcast my seed and watered it in, and so I'm hoping that after I get back up from these conferences, that I'll have a nice little mat of tons of this stuff, so I can then move it around. It'll spread and creep, and so I'll put it all over the farm. Um,
I think that's really important. Elaine, it actually shows, I believe, in her presentation, the difference in grasses and roots and perennials and annuals. And I think the interplanting of multiple species is really important, especially in the outdoor situations, having windrows of different things, to have some of those roots that go much, much deeper into the earth, that can pull nutrients up, that you can maybe even harvest some of that material, that fresh green growth that's come from 20, 30 feet down in the earth, and either chip that, mulch it, or compost it, and put those nutrients back into the top surfaces of the earth, or your garden spaces. The other thing that we're kind of notorious for doing is growing potatoes within our root zone of our full term plants, and it's just fun. It's a treasure hunt, and it works as a green mulch or a green manure. You've got your root zone right at the base, being protected by the hot sun. Because, a couple of the things we do on our farm is we'll limb up some of our lower branches, but those lower branches are there to kind of act as a green cover for the roots that they're growing, of that same plant. But for some reason, as cannabis farmers, we've always started limbing those up, because we don't want our buds necessarily in the dirt. So now what we're doing is we're replacing that space with potatoes or clover, and we're actually starting to look at growing some sunchokes within the mix, some corn, and we're trying to just do polyculture even with our companion planting.
that's cool. I'm trying to, like I told you, I was new on my farm, so I've been building and building and building, and I have 6,000 square feet of beds now, and that's a lot for one person. It's a real heck
Yeah.
of a lot. And so I'm trying to, but I still want to build more. You know, I just love to build beds and do more. But my goal this year really is to just plant stuff and then get to doing more interplanting and more, you know, more things like that, because I've been so busy building cannabis, building greenhouse, building this. I had to build a fence, just all the, you know, stuff I've had to do to develop this property that I haven't really got to grow a whole lot of vegetables, you know. Yeah, and so I'm really excited to get after that this year personally. That's one thing I'm stoked on.
Yeah, and you know how it is when you're building out a farm, it's getting systems in place that can stay in place. And that's kind of Steve and I were talking a little bit about the developing cannabis world on a global scale and how are people building out and we start thinking about even like our tea brew systems, like where they're located, what they have access to with gravity drop from those points, and just your overall farm layout and how to move around on it. And it's really important to map it and have a mindful process of that.
And it takes years. I mean, I've had this plan, you know. I walked down to this blank spot, you know, that I unfortunately had to clear, and so it was a blank slate and a straight, you know. I was like, what am I going to do here? You know, lots of joints later. I had this plan, and it's really cool. This would be my third summer, and I dug a small. I started the pond this year. I have two ponds, and so I have a stream that'll go through it, and it'll be circulating with trout and fish, and um, I'm you know, when that day comes that I actually get to light up that pump, I'm just gonna weep. You know, it'll be awesome. But it's coming together, and it's so exciting. So, but my greenhouse also now, all the water from my greenhouse will drains into that pond, and so yeah, I'm able to collect my rainwater there. It's just kind of like these. I just feel like I'm just getting there. You know, it's exciting. You know,
Nice.
first
Hey,
couple of years are overwhelming. You know.
let's talk about something. For a couple years now, we've been one of the systems we stack, I call it, is we're putting down wood chip in our walkways, and then we are after a year, we take that wood chip from the walkway and we shovel it onto the hugel bed or into our cultivation row. Um, and I think the jury's out on that yet. I didn't feel as confident this year when I was hoeing some of that material, like just 2, 3 inches, probably 2 inches of that material onto the bed. Sure, it was. I was peeling back that and it was full of mycelium and earthworms and decaying material that was really earthy smelling, and it was amazing, and it was going onto my bed. But then, yeah, we're coming back and we're putting wood chips back in those aisle spaces, but I just don't know about about that system. What are your thoughts? Have you messed around with that yet on your farm?
Seems like a lot of work. I'm like about doing stuff it like is as simple as possible, for labor wise too. Like I went down the Joel Salatin train pretty hard early on when I was learning about what I might want to do farming, and his whole thing is to develop systems, you know, to make things really efficient. And so I don't do that, you know. I've been making all my beds have been hugel beds that have been stacks of wood, which I have a lot of wood on my property, and then straw, and then I'll shovel over. Actually, I dug a huge hole, um, 8 foot wide by 8 foot wide by like 6 feet deep, and I've been putting that on my hugels, and that will turn into an aquaponics pond reservoir that'll be in a greenhouse. So I'm just kind of doing that process, and then you know, I'm bringing in, you know, compost that I've top dressed on top of that. And you know, last year I grew some decent stuff on it. You know, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't, you know, it was lacking a little bit of nutrients, but it was, you know, it was what it was. And that wasn't, you know, I put a lot of energy into my greenhouse, and so I'm slowly developing that outer stuff. And big on my list is a wood chipper though, because stuff does decompose a lot faster. And
It does.
you know, I like to just, I actually have planted white Dutch clover over my whole property. As soon as I clear a space or till it or whatever, I have to disturb it, I just plant this white Dutch clover. Um, it's a nitrogen fixer, obviously. It's really hardy, and it's a great pollinator. And I've been using it for years. I started using it for vegetables. It made a lot more sense then, but now it's just kind of like a really easy go-to. I know how to germinate it well, and then I can come back and put in other stuff later, you know. So that's kind of where my aisles and everywhere I'm walking through white Dutch clover.
Nice, nice. Yeah, we were going with this system because we have so much wood chip that we produce, and we like the idea of not having a static compost pile off and away. So we were messing with having it, kind of letting it break down in the aisles and then shoveling it onto the hugels. And I think we're going to find some sort of happy medium. What I maybe I realized this year is I felt the need to hoe it down like 2 inches, and I think I was going too deep. I think next year, if I go down that process, it would just be a light raking of that material and putting it on top. And the other thing that we're starting to develop these swales in certain locations that when we do some extra chipping for our roadways, um, we'll fill the ditch or the swale along the roadside with that chip material and let it kind of recharge um, over the year. And by recharge, what I mean is that it's breaking down, it's capturing runoff material, and we know forest runoff is going to be loaded with all that nutrient. Um, so we're letting it like kind of cure or season in these swales, and then we'll clean the swales out like in a year or two and put that material onto our beds. And my goodness, we did that this year, and it was absolutely gorgeous. Just like the the blackest worm crawling good times smelled like earthy forest topsoil that we were able to put onto our hugels this year. So we're really happy with that. And the other thing we're doing with these is we don't want to take material back uphill. So if we're using a wheelbarrow to clean some of these ditches out, then it's going to go to a lower garden. And we just keep bringing material down the hillside instead of the other way. We only want to bring cannabis up and materials down.
Mm-hmm.
Is there anything you do in particular to just feed your fungi in your system, and solely?
Well, I feel the wood chips. Well, we're putting out the mushroom blocks. So we're putting out wood chips and the recycled cardboard, and the straw. That that's all really good food for those guys.
Awesome, awesome. And then, is there any meals or any other organic inputs at all that you use, or the stuff that you talked about?
Um,
Or maybe for ingredients for your compost tea. Actually, you actually know what you're doing with compost tea, and we haven't had too many people talk about that. Do you want to talk about the right way to do compost tea? Because a lot of people just take cow manure and throw it in some water and go, "Oh, it's compost tea," or some rabbit pellets or whatever, and that's not compost tea. That's manure. That's manure extract.
no, yeah, we like I said last year, Corey was our soil chef that was in charge of that, and he had a really nice recipe. And like I said, I'll be pulling some of his notes out and kind of getting the components of that. But we want to call it, it should be called microbe tea and not so much compost tea in my mind, because you're essentially just creating a space to build the microbiology so it can bloom and at a rapid pace. And I think one of the best quotes that Elaine gave is when you start putting out compost tea, it's kind of like when they first sent the Mayflower and the first pilgrims over to this country. They might not even made it. They might have died, crossing the seas. Whereas you're learning with compost tea that um, you could have problems. Your pump might not be the right pump, and you're destroying all your microbes and before they even come out the end of the hose, or you've got a dirty situation, some too much biofilm in your tank or your lines. Um, but Elaine was saying that you just keep sending them and sending them. Oh, look at those beautiful pieces there.
Yeah, look at these. I just paid a lot of money for these. But this is exactly what you're talking about. See, it can be cleaned and get into every surface in there. The valve, the ball valve, and this is shout out to Scott Granola, Crescent Soil. See how it can be brought apart with those bolts? So I can pull it out. I can take a toothbrush to the ball valve in there. Everything I can pull apart and clean. Um, that's the key to it, you know, is cleanliness and getting it clean every time. Just like brewing beer or whatever, you know, wine.
Yeah, Corey did our build out, and he set them all up so no component is bigger than a 5-gallon bucket. So you could literally dump each component into the, parts of the manifold into the 5-gallon bucket to clean them out. Because the cleanliness is really important.
Yeah.
And we have 2 different brewers. We have a 450 gallon brewer, and then we have a 55. And I really, really like having the 2 sizes. You can always keep something going, and it's good to also brew in the wintertime, and even your beds and your walkways. Brew times are longer when it's colder. Um, but it's important to have that microscope and to see what's going on, and you're not going to know unless you're really looking. And that's why Elaine's class that we all attended was so amazing. You were at that one too, Steve, right?
No, I wasn't able to make it. I tried really hard, but I had another event that I was doing that same earlier in the week, unfortunately. But but yeah, I'm very familiar with all of her work, and actually, on top, in combination with her, I was actually a big follower. I don't know if you guys are aware of, forget what his name is, but the gentleman that runs Microbe Organics, microbeorganics.com. He was the guy I found even before I learned about Elaine. When I was very first learning to do compost tea, was getting a 200x or 250x microscope, and then looking at everything on with and using the Microbe Organics website as a reference to try and figure out how is my compost and what does my compost tea look like. And that was actually my first exposure to that. And then later on found out about Dr. Ingham's work, and then Dr. Efron and some of the other people, and really expanded on my knowledge base.
Yeah, it's amazing, that it comes out. It's part of coming out of the green closet. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, you know, we didn't really feel so comfortable, and I don't think those soil scientists felt so comfortable hanging out with a bunch of cannabis farmers. So it's nice to be able to the knowledge share that is happening now is mind blowing, and sure feel blessed to start being able to tap into some of this brain trust that's out there.
Yeah, it's really cool. I love that aspect about what's going on with these gatherings. But beyond the speaker sharing their expertise, the farmer to farmer mind share is really
Yeah,
cool.
Yeah,
especially at the Humboldt gathering, because there's nowhere else for people to wander off to.
You represent, dude.
nice. I see that. Yeah, we're really excited about the Dem Peer panel this year. Um, I put it together with Jesse Dodd, and I kind of talked and uh, went over a list of farms that we thought would be interesting to feature this year. And kind of the mindset I wanted to come in is uh, each farm kind of does things in a different way, and some farms really excel in certain things. Um, so I wanted to highlight farms for different reasons. We have Bryceland Forest Farm, who produces a lot of food and intercrops cannabis with their food production. We're going to have Cyril from Water Dog Herb Farm, who does a lot with herbs and preps. And not only that, he's going to be coming straight from a solar weather conference. I believe tap into his knowledge on that a little bit. Um, and then we have Heart Rock Mountain, and those guys last year left the workshop and started dumping out smart pots and building hugels. So I forget how many couple hundred, almost 300 feet of hugel they built just over the course of that last spring. So I want to hear about their inspirations.
Did they
And
come to the conference last year?
yeah, they did. Yeah, and they
Okay,
weren't
I
them.
didn't meet
They
them there, but I met them at the Emerald Cup this year for some.
Yeah, they
So
weren't
yeah,
them peer certified last year, but they this is how it works. You know, the inspiration comes, and that's why it's so important for us to pull different community members and to really bring a diverse panel up. Um, and then we're going to have Regenerative Cannabis Farm winners, Sun Roots. Um, those folks are amazing from Mendocino County. So they're going to share some of their stories. Jesse Dodd was going to be on the panel, but he had a family situation he's got to attend. So he'll be showing up on Sunday. So those fans of BioVortex and Jesse, you can connect with him on Sunday. He's an amazing breeder and brings a lot to the community. Him and Dan Marr with the Regenerative Cannabis Farm Award that is now gonna it's now also up at the Cultivation Classic up in Oregon, which is coming up in March, I believe. That's a really science-based conference. Not conference, but competition and event. Um, that I highly recommend folks that maybe attend the Emerald Cup or some of these other conferences or competitions to go check out the Cultivation Conference or Cultivation Classic. Sorry, got tongue tied there. Um, and who else is on the panel? Oh, Rio from Lady Sativa here in Benbow. He really goes deep into community building, and he worked for our Humboldt County planning for economic development. So he's a really valued member of our community. He brings a lot to the conversation, um, not just about what to plant, where to plant, but community development and economic development around cannabis and farming. Um, and Yeah, and then the other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to have all the Dempier farmers stand up in the room and, maybe just say their name and their farm so people can look around the room and connect. And folks that are waiting to be inspected, I know I have a short list of farms I need to go check in with. Um, and I can only be in so many places at one time, but we're trying to keep the love flowing and keep the information coming and keep onboarding farms as they're ready and ready to share their farm and have it inspected as well.
cool. So I'm really excited,
And
dude. Thanks for
and
putting it all together.
and you're a Dempier farmer now.
Yeah, just recently.
Yeah, welcome
Yeah,
aboard.
super stoked. Thanks. Yeah, hell yeah. Yeah. So thanks again for putting it together. It's this is the third one we've done. Oh, this will be the fourth one we've done, and yeah, each one has been slightly different, but they're all super inspirational. Um, just to and then we always have a good question and answer time too, so people can like crank out a lot of questions. How did you do this? How did you do that? Then we get into some of the details too, which is really the focus of the conference is to get into the nitty gritty of this stuff and devil's in the details. I say it a lot, but that's really how I feel about a lot of things.
Yeah,
So
we try to take the pulse of what's going on when we do these panels. And when we were in Vancouver, the Uplift was going on conference, and that was across the street. So we were kind of calling it that was the suits, and then folks would come over to the roots. Um, so we kind of talked a little bit about contracts a little bit and intellectual property and kind of not our normal Dampier panel. Um, but some of the realizations that's happening as we're sharing um, into this new space as what we knew as our home and our life is now becoming facilities and industry. Um, and we're trying to really share what we're learning on the business end of things too. So we'll
totally
take the pulse. We'll take the pulse of the crowd and Redway at the Octagon and see where it takes us, and just keep sharing and trying to answer questions as best we can.
Heck yeah.
If you're listening, you should come. You should come. It's gonna be a great event. I'm really excited.
Yeah, we did. I had 2 tickets to help promote the event, and so far we've done 1 ticket so far. I don't have the person's name yet, but it's going to be an HSU student. So
Awesome.
we wanted to tap into our local college here, Humboldt State University. Um, they do a lot of work in the environment and the economic ecosystem around cannabis. They can't really touch the plant yet because of federal funding, um, but they can really go into the environmental effects of cannabis farming. So we're going to have an HSU student come down as one of the tickets that I'm putting out there, and I have one more to go, and it'll probably end up being another HSU student from a different department because I feel the information share that they take back is going to be so valued and so important to connect um, this cannabis knowledge and for them to be comfortable getting some of their questions answered as a college student. Maybe they're from LA or the East Coast and they've never been up in Humboldt or deeper into the Humboldt Hills. They've just been going to the college and they don't really have an aspect or an idea of what the cannabis farmers look like
You
and
just watch
what the
Murder Mountain.
conversations are. Oh my goodness. Where that really affected our community um in in a negative way, that the way that was produced and portrayed, um that really did not showcase what Humboldt is really about. That was a very small, uh a very narrow lens they looked through
Exactly.
when they brought that out. And here's the thing with that, and I'm glad you brought that up, because the way it was presented to the community, some of our elders that I look to and love and respect, they were told one thing and they shared some really deep, intimate stories that if you listen and watch that show, you're going to get some amazing stories from some of our elders, like Doug Fur and some of these others. Um, and then they mixed in a whole bunch of the sensationalized stuff going on around the murder that took place. Um, and it is what it was. But I think not all attention is good attention. But now we can talk about it and we can talk about the good parts of it. So, my face showed up in that series for a
I
second
saw
too
that. Yeah.
at a Humboldt County Supervisors meeting. I had no idea that they were there filming for that. I don't think any of us did, but it was a public space, so they had the right to.
It was
Yeah. I
all
think
about sensationalism, though. It wasn't about telling about Humboldt. It was about sensationalizing a story, and they weren't interested in showing you in a good light. They were just interested in selling a show. That's the way I look at it.
Yeah.
On a similar but unrelated note, how has legalization affected the community up there?
Mm. You know, I've said this a few times. If you were to call Middle America and say, "Hey, we're going to bring a multi-billion-dollar industry to your area, um, and we need a little help getting it off the ground. What do you think about some tax breaks and little chance for us to build some infrastructure and get this right?" I bet you'd get a really positive response. Here it went the other way. Um, we really didn't get any financial help, and we don't because we don't have banking yet. But even the taxes and the barriers to entry were so great. It has really, really devastated um, our local communities, um, with really good folks not being able to participate. And there are some laws now, or people trying to lobby to get some of the taxes um, postponed a little bit. But for for Humboldt County, I'm okay with our square footage tax. It's it's the time they collect it though. I feel it should be at time of sale. I have to pay that tax before I even plant a seed, not knowing how the crop is even gonna go. And that we find really challenging. Um, it's an over-regulated market at the moment. Um, and it's we're losing what I would call our Humboldt brand, or we have potential to lose it. This Humboldt County as a name has taken 3 generations to get worldwide recognition. And every time a farm that's a multi-generation farm that it has to close its doors or close its gates and someone else comes in and buys that property from out of the area, or a commercial interest comes in and purchases that farm, well, they're not going to farm the way we have. They're not going to cure the way we have, and they're not going to maybe even have access to the cultivars that we have. And that I feel dilutes the brand. So we really need to figure out how to keep the legacy of Humboldt County's name going. And I feel to do that, we really need to support the farms that are here and have been existing um, under local ownership. And yeah, it's challenging, and Main Street, I don't think realized how affected it was going to be. You talk about a company town, whether it's a mining town or a logging town, talk about company towns, but the Emerald Triangle, my goodness, cannabis, we're a company town, and the business is cannabis, and Main Street's down, 60, 70, 80%, because the belts are tight, and we're trying to figure out how to make it happen. I talked about that earlier. We're giving up a light depth situation because we can't really afford to have someone work for us. We have to really dig deep and figure out how we can be as efficient as possible. And a lot of those efficiencies and bringing those costs down come to working as a group or a collective, and also have a lot to do with regenerative farming. And regenerative farming, you're closing loops and trying to grow a lot of those inputs on your farm. And with the regenerative farming, you bring costs way down and quality way up. We learned that as well, not only with the regenerative practices, but just with the sun grown in our area with the grow off. One of our local farms, Moonmade, um, they won the grow off in the terpene category um, over everyone. And I think the closest indoor cultivation, I don't I don't know if I'm accurate on this. I think it was nowhere near the top five. I think the top five spaces were filled with sun grown. So right there, that tells you that sun grown and regenerative, and these farms of the Emerald Triangle have such an important role uh, in what I guess we're going to be calling the new cannabis industry. I don't know, how is it for you up in Washington, Joshua? Is I know OMAC and some of that Eastern Washington, those are some of the Humboldt, we call it Humboldt of Washington. Um, but what is it like in northwestern Washington? Is your Main Street affected as it is here?
No, it's interesting. Bellingham is a real big weed history. Our Whatcom County. Um, and it's close to that. We're right by the border of Vancouver, British Columbia, and so there was a lot of weed that was going back and forth over time. But we're not small town like you guys are. Like your whole community. It's much different. You guys have a lot higher populace of growers than what we have. Period. And we have other industry that is supported, but all the grow shops are gone. You know, where that when I moved here into this town in 2014, um, there was 6 grow shops. Now there's one, literally.
Yeah, we're seeing that too, and not necessarily that they're closing their doors, but they're joining forces, just like we're joining forces as farmers. Um, and one of our major stores here in town, said he is backed off by 80 to 90% of bag soil pre-orders. So that tells you that, we often wondered when the hills would stop being built up with potting soil here in Humboldt County, and we've reached that point where now people are just trying to amend or close those loops. And the other thing that really I can is the experience around coming to a farm and meeting a farmer and the how we farm and seeing the beauty of these farms up here is what I feel can really save our local industry. We might be the Napa of cannabis, or we like to call it the cannabis heartland. Um, and for folks to be able to come and stay and experience a cannabis farm is going to be amazing. We just shot a segment for a documentary coming out with Chef Peter Evans from Australia, and he's known for the Paleo Way and the Magic Pill on Netflix. And he came to our farm, and we dove deep into our farming practices and what it looks like and feels like to be on a cannabis farm, a family-owned and operated cannabis farm at that. And he was blown away. He was blown away. We had really good conversation, and I don't want to talk too much about it because it's still developing. But I'm going to be really excited to see how that documentary comes out. I'm sure it'll
Super
be a
cool.
little bit different than the Murder Mountain one.
I was just gonna that's really awesome, but just to step back, it's been so interesting because Washington legalized, I think, 3 or 4 years before California, and California has a way bigger history. There's a lot more impact on your community with this legalization, but it's just really interesting. I think that there's a lot of hope is where I'm eventually trying to get to this conversation. But where we've gone is we lost all the quality. Growers went away, and it became all new growers that were legal growers for the most part. And so what the shelves, and the current state on the shelves is the quality is looking better, but it's all salts and indoor, stuff that it's just all look, and it tastes horrible, and it has horrible effects. And the market is just now starting to change, and it's just the very beginnings of it. Like Kaya kind of was able to bring in some hash into the market, which you're like, hash, yeah, there was no good hash. Our state has led in diamonds and sauce, literally in that field, but that's BHO, hydrocarbon, yeah, and we just, in our legal market, it's gotten weird, but it's coming around. We actually have a bill that's up for letting us sell direct from farm, and that would be a life changer for my family.
Yeah.
Literally, we all know you could sell a pound of weed and that would pay a month of our bills, at least pay the mortgage, and that's what? Yeah. And I can sell that in a weekend. No problem to my neighbors. I could probably sell 10 of them. No, no problem. My neighbors, and deal with the whole month. And I could hire somebody who'd be back to the old days where I was supporting the community. And it's that's been the real impact that I've noticed for my personal life, is how much less I can spend in the community and support other people, employ other people. And I'm just having to work harder, and it's not helping me out any. I'm losing sleep. I'm, just working harder, and but there's hope on the horizon. I think that's the kind of, this is just the way it goes with this, developing a new legal thing. And there's going to be all these people that come in with all these agendas, and it's going to just really be hard for a minute, and then they're going to lose their money. And they're, I've heard a lot of times, well, I didn't come into this to do this shit. I was in real estate in 2013, and I'm done. I'm not going to take this shit anymore. It's great, sorry, I'm really sorry that you had to lose that money, but it's kind of oh, thank you, a little bit of breathing room.
Yeah, I don't think in California yet it's even realized itself yet.
Yeah, you haven't got there yet. But it'll take some years. But my point is that it'll come back, and I think that there might be a couple waves of this, because there's the state wave that we're all experiencing right now, and then when the federal curtain drops, that will be like this whole new wave of, it'll just go huge business, you know, Budweiser, if you will, to, you know, less than microbrews. There'll be these nano brews like yourself, you know, myself, that and it'll be this great divide, you know.
Yeah, right now
That's my projections.
right now the money coming from or going out from the farms is all going to compliance and all these barriers to entry. So that's our money going out, and the money coming in is almost like these subsidized pounds that are being purchased with investment money. Um, or the other thing that's happening in California is the farmer who has the least at the moment is being asked to subsidize and finance the entire industry. We don't, no one wants to pay, whether it's distribution or retail. It's really hard to get them to pay for your product that's already jarred and packaged, and it's damn near getting burned by the consumer before you actually can collect your paycheck. It's like, where have you heard that in any industry? Here we go. I'm going to start talking closer. In any industry, farming or whatever, okay, I'm going to pay my tax before I even thought about engaging, before I even soak a seed, and I'm not going to get paid until the person's consumed it. It's ridiculous. Absolutely ridiculous. And who's dealing with all the, and you they're wondering why the farmers are in the state that they're in. It's crazy what is being demanded of us.
Not only that, they totally backstabbed the farmers when they allowed the stacking of the Class 2B licenses, which was total bullshit. Or 3B, I forget which one it is. You would know it better now. The 10,000 square foot licenses that they weren't supposed to be able to stack, you know, which was another underhanded attack to a lot of the smaller growers in California.
Yeah, right now there's so much emphasis put on distribution companies with a brand that farmers are just able to be a farmer and sell a pound. Like that's all you need. That's all you need, right? You're okay with that? That's not going to do anything for my daughters in the future. If I can't build a name and a brand or some sort of recognition for AlpenGlow Farms, and I'm just a farmer producing a commodity that could be bought and sold or traded or not contractual the next year, that there's that's I'm going to lose in the long run. It's going to be so important to have retail relationships with retail partners, and I feel relationships with consumers when we can finally do tours. Anybody that has had a chance to get to my farm and have the experience of being boots on the ground, fingers in the soil, they know what they want now. And now having the Dem Pure movement get so big, folks can look for the Dem Pure seal on packaging and know that the story is going to be relatively the same as mine. It's really going to be a mindful process. You're going to have closed loops and a really clean product. We have extractors here, new extraction company setting up. We just had a contact from a company doing ice water, and they said, "Hey, we only want to buy Dem Pure product because they know what they're going to get. They're going to get high terpene profiles, they're going to get unique strains, and they're also going to get clean product." Um, you know, it's not a play to pay certification. It's a peer group certification. And who better knows your laundry than your neighbors and your peers? And um, I think it's amazing process. I think over time we're gonna do more with the Dempeer certification and and bring more recognized credibility to it with how we manage it or regulate it. And that's only my speculation, because it is gaining so much traction. But we really want to still hold the value that it is, and that it's a mindful process.
Oh yeah, yeah, it's really awesome thing to be part of for sure. I don't want to take up your whole night. Is there anything else that you wanted to talk about before we wrap up your segment?
I want to thank you for holding down this space. The more times we can tell our story, um, and it's not just my story and my farm, this whole Emerald Triangle area and all the small farmers around the world that are just coming out of the closet or coming out of the bushes or coming out of the mountains. We all have to really band together and really try to keep keep this craft going. Um, and we're trying to give shout outs to other farms that we see in the space, and we really appreciate being able to share on a network like this. And if I can encourage listeners of this, go to the Dempier website, see what it looks like, and see what farms are participating, and get on Instagram if you can, and connect with the Regenerative Cannabis Farming site. That's one that Jesse Dodd and Dan Marr put down, and the other one that Joshua puts down for the conferences. These are all ways to link and start following and engaging and asking questions. And what? The other thing I realized as well, I started going to the Humboldt Permaculture Guild Scion Exchange, and there's a lot of this. Just because you're growing fruit trees doesn't mean you're not growing cannabis too. um, so get out in your community and connect with other people gardening. The love and the passion is there, and get out and share it. And to quote Casey O'Neill from last year, if you could do one thing earlier on, and his thing was to get out and vote and make a difference. That's where one thing some of the cannabis farmers like myself, we were hiding behind our gates, not sure of uh, what to do and how it was going to happen. So these laws got made for us, and now we're spending a lot of time just to tweak them slightly in our favor. When if we would have came out stronger with a unified voice, we would have been able to really have better structure around what these laws look like and what they mean to us. I guess, I could go on and on, but I think,
It
yeah,
was
Uh,
everything wasn't just fine, but everything was running, honestly smoother under the one that Dennis Perone wrote, 215.
oh my
You know,
goodness. The hardest thing is not being able to supply medicine directly to patients. We have Wade Laughter with the Calandrias Network,
will
and
he be
so
there this
many of the,
weekend?
pardon?
Will he be there this weekend?
I don't know. He
I think
may
so.
be.
He's
Oh
hoping
my,
to.
oh, right on.
Yeah.
Wade is an
Awesome.
amazing human. If you've heard of Harlequin, um, that's a strain that he worked with a lot. Him and Forrest, they do a lot with terminally ill children, and these are now illegal to be able to give them cannabis directly, and it is a shame how this got away from us.
They're,
Um,
they're working on
but
that right now. Was it SB 34, I believe it is. Jeff Perone, Dennis Perone's brother, along with Wayne Justman and some other people from the community are working hard on that.
yeah, we're trying to really get that back into play. It's really important. We were producing with the help from our friend Sarah from Canadiva. We were putting out these bath bombs, CBD and THC bath bombs that were just so therapeutic for people, and we had to stop, and it's a shame.
Yeah, it's really shitty, but hopefully they'll be able to get that fixed. I know there's a big legislative push. I know that they're going to name it they just got it official to change the name of the Dennis Perone something or other bill. So that'll be really awesome when that finally goes through. I know it has backing of a lot of state senators. I know Senator Weiner and some of the other guys. Not the one that showed his dick to people. The other one, the one in California. Um,
yeah,
uh,
you got out of jail yesterday. You Since you had to bring it up.
yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, so I know he's backing it, and hopefully the governor at least claimed that he's in support of it. So we'll see. Although same governor is the one who's really willing to call in the National Guard on cannabis growers to help protect corporate cannabis, which is absolute bullshit. That's insane. There's no reason why National Guard should be involved in any of that. That's just a waste of taxpayer money. That's not what they're there for. That's arguably against habeas corpus.
Well, that's how they formed. That's why they formed Campaign Against Marijuana Production, in the late, in the 90s, yeah, because they came in with National Guard helicopters, and they were busting farms.
Not habeas corpus, posse comitatus.
There you go.
Wrong one.
Well, yeah, thank you for having us on, for sure. We appreciate it, and my goodness, we're going to see you guys in a couple days.
Yeah, I'll see you in 2 days.
Yeah, you were going to see me, but I'm not going to get to come. So I wish I could, man. I really want to go, but I know you're going to have a great time out there. I'll tell you.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. I think so.
All right. Well, thank you so much for joining us. Why don't you tell everybody how to find you if they want to get in touch with you or check you out?
Yeah, for sure. Thank you. Yeah, you can find us at AlpenGlowFarms707 on Instagram. We pop up pretty quickly. And we have a website at AlpenGlowFarms.net, and that just directs you to our Instagram and our email address. So I think between those two, you'll be able to track us down one way or the other. Yeah, we're really active on Instagram. We're really trying to educate and share and normalize, we go live about once a week, especially in the summertime. We do it at sunrise often, show folks what we're up to and what we're digging around in the soil. And we try to just showcase little components of our or little facets of our life here in southern Humboldt County. And by following us on Instagram, it gives you your own personal window into our farm and our lives. And not only that, but you'll get linked to other farms because we're often given shout outs to other things happening in our community or the globe that need attention. So there you go.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Thanks so much for joining us and sharing all that awesome knowledge with us.
Hey, thank you. You take care, and good seeing y'all.
Yep. See you in a couple days.
Yeah.
All right.
And you're welcome to stick around while you're gone. So, okay.
Josh, what have you been up to just aside from getting the conference together?
That's it. Well, that's not it. Last night I was up till 1 a.m. planting my greenhouse. So not the entire. I just put 3/4 of a bed in of moms. So
nice.
That's exciting. They're in there and everything's rocking, and gonna bounce out to do this conference and come back and probably flip a crop. I got some clones coming in from some folks, and yeah, some exciting stuff happening. But yeah, I've basically been focused on the conference stuff.
Awesome.
Yeah.
Any other conference announcements? Are we mentioning the thing on Sunday night?
Yeah, Craig was kind of talking about it. We're doing an after party Sunday night at the Soham Guild, and so that's super awesome. They're basically sponsoring a smokeout session. They're going to have I think some little appetizers and beverage, and we can all go down and hang out and smoke and just kind of wrap the weekend up. So that's pretty exciting.
Sweet.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Other than that, I've kind of gone over all the details a lot on this show, and I'm just excited to kind of go down there and do the thing. I got another day here, and then I leave Thursday morning, and it's on. I'll see you in the airport.
Yep. Yeah, getting a little after 1 or 1 something, so be fun.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, we get to pick up Dr. Elaine, and the 3 of us can travel down south. It'll be fun.
Yeah, or north rather.
That was the north, yeah. So yeah, I don't even know. Good thing we got the Google Maps.
Yep.
It's Sponsored by the Google Maps.
And Waze. Waze tells you where the police are. It's better than Google.
I'm like a crotchety old man. I can use stuff, and but I can only do what I can do.
Oh, it was funny. I was going into Canada and having the Waze on, and then immediately having it like disconnect when we made it over the border and being totally fucked. That was pretty funny. And then trying to find it to Marcus's place.
Yeah, that was challenging. We had to figure it all out.
So, but it's okay. It was a lot of fun. What have you been up to, Roger?
Well, not a whole lot. We're just preparing to farm for the year and trying to set out a plan for. There's so many things to do this year. I don't know where to start almost, but trying. I'm held back a lot by my transportation issues, but I got a lot of good things I'm going to try to do. Other than that, pretty much nothing. Trying to get healthy. Been kind of struggling for the last month or so, and that keeps me down a lot. Because I don't know, just whatever I've got is making me tired as well. It's one thing to be having, sinus and bronchial issues, but man, it seems to just wear me down where I'm sleeping twice a day. I'm not just sleeping at night or, late. I stay up real late anyway. I've always been nocturnal, but yeah, I'm getting where it's gotten so bad that I've gotten where instead of going to bed in the middle of the night and getting up, like before lunch, I'm sleeping all day long, and then I'll get up and then I'll want to take a nap at 9 or 10 o'clock again. So I don't know if that's, whether that's a hard issue or what, but nothing else really going on. Nothing I can discuss on the channel. Because actually a couple things that are going on, I'm really upset and hurt over, and I'm not going to share that on the show. So I'm just sitting here kind of numb right now.
I'm sorry.
That's all right, buddy. I know all you guys care about me. God, that night that I had that episode, y'all were so, thoughtful and supportive, that I appreciated, even though it wasn't anything serious. I did appreciate the fact that you guys wouldn't leave me alone till you thought I was okay. So, we're okay, but just kind of numb over something that happened, and I just don't know what to think. So.
All right. Well, I've been up to all kinds of stuff. I had some cool meetings last week that hopefully I'll be able to talk about at some point here in the not super distant future. Just been talking with helping people get out to Josh's thing, and trying to find rides for some people and coordinate some stuff with that. And what else have I been up to? Just planning some trips. Got a couple of some cool travel trips to go see some cool stuff here in the works. Trying to figure out dates. So that's going to be a lot of fun. And yeah, working on some other fun stuff that'll be on the show. And just getting ready, just trying to take care of the garden, take care of any work stuff, consulting stuff before I go, because once I get started with this trip, it gets kind of wild. So I'll end up with a ton of time to sit and work on the keyboard. So I'm trying to play catch up ahead of time, so I can relax a little bit more during the trip. So it's been about it. Other than that, just working on actually, this is kind of cool. Ordered a bunch of stuff from Baker Creek. Dwarf moringa. Actually, I'll share it with you guys. We got Tom Thumb peas.
Yeah.
We got red Russian kale. Got purple bok choy. Colorado mixed colored yarrow. We got coconut, which is pretty cool. It's a weird nightshade. Some horehound, some mullein. We were talking about mullein. It's good stuff for your lungs. Peppers, New Zealand spinach. These ones are cool. The golden berry naragilos. This is another one of those Andean nightshades, something funky and different. Some wonder berries. So they didn't have the purple flash, but I figured we'll try these because they looked almost identical as far as I think it's just a different varietal name. So we'll try that for Aureus. Got some honeywort if you're into herbs. Bunch of tomatoes, some peppers. These peppers, these apocalypse scorpions, are supposed to be 1 million Scovilles. Some feverfew, some crimson clover. If you're looking for a good cover crop for your cannabis, crimson clover is a great one. This is a big, thick, heavy thing of seeds, and this cost I think $2 or $3 for a whole shit ton. So it's really, really good. Mugwort, South American peppers, the little super nuclear hot ones. Some of the tie-dye Berkeley tomatoes. Some pot soy. Yeah, and a bunch. I have a whole second bag. I won't bore everybody, but a bunch of cooking herbs, bunch of veggies, getting ready for summer. So it's been kind of ordering some stuff, doing some stuff, but trying to figure out, what the summer's going to look like and trying to get some cool. We'll be doing some footage from a couple of farms here before too long with aquaponics. It'd be pretty neat. So got a bunch of stuff in the works, and this next 2 months is going to be between now and end of April is going to be kind of insane. I'm going to be traveling pretty much every week. Although there might be a trip to the Caribbean coming up here pretty quickly, which will be nice. I won't tell you. It might be multiple islands actually this time, which will be fun.
Yeah, right down the stream from me.
Yeah. Maybe I have to stop and see you on the way back.
It's like just a short boat ride out there.
Yeah. All right. Well, thanks again for AlpenGlow for joining us. The conversation this week is really awesome, and thanks again for all the hard work he does to help put on the Regenerative conference. He really does a lot. You can find him AlpenGlow707 on Instagram. Link for his Instagram and website is in the description, so feel free to check that out. Josh, why don't you tell everybody how to get in touch with you and how to find out more information about the conference, and then also we forgot to mention before we totally wrap up the show that the Ann Arbor or the other dates, we have Portland, Maine, which is March 1st, 2nd, and 3rd, and we have a bunch of East Coast breeders that are going to be coming and speaking for those breeding panels, which is going to be really awesome. And then we also have the one in Ann Arbor, which will also be live streamed. So if you aren't able to afford to come out to the conferences, please hop on and buy one of those tickets and support us that way. And then you don't have to leave your home. You can sit back in the comfort of your living room and watch the whole conference. We'll have some bonus footage out there. I'll be manning that. We'll have a microscope set up so we can try and show some examples of what they're talking about with the microscope and everything else. And we'll have some other kind of side footage as well that'll be really cool for the people that are buying it online. So, to make it a really cool experience for you.
That's awesome. And that's the 22nd, 23rd, and 24th of March.
Yep.
1 month after this weekend. Yep. 4 weeks after this weekend, actually, because it's February. So.
You guys are awesome. Thanks. Yeah, it's you can find everything at regenerativeorganiccannabis.com. I have the website updated. I'm constantly getting little notes about my poor spelling, and I'm updating that when I'm notified. So it's a living document, and it's pretty good though. So the schedules are up, and yeah, if you everything's up there. So
yep. And if you're looking to, are you still looking for sponsors for dinners or?
Yeah, we're still looking for sponsors for dinners for Portland and for Michigan. So if anybody's interested in that, or lunches in Redway too. We have 2 dinner sponsors, so we're good on dinners there in Redway, but we're open to that. So if you're interested, would be super awesome. We kind of thought about it and thought that was a good way to kind of help cover some cost and not feel like we were compromising our ideals, because it's direct. It's like they're basically buying you lunch. So it's like, hey, you know what? Vital Gardening Supply is going to buy us lunch on Saturday. Hell yeah, badass. Like a company that just is like, you know what? We're actually not going to get any advertising really out of this. We're just going to buy somebody lunch and let them know that we care about the community and we're here to support you. And if you want to come check our shit out, this is what we do. Cool. So I think that's awesome.
Awesome. What about you, Roger? How do people find you?
Well, you can join the support forums at ilovegrowingmarijuana.com and check out all our great mentors and friendly, helpful community. If you need any tips on growing, I know a lot of you that watch the show kind of know how to grow. We have opened up a regenerative organic category, or a soil. I opened a soil building category, and in that category, I've got regenerative organic farming and Korean natural farming. Right now are the only two subcategories. And I spent the afternoon, or so I don't know, sometime in the last 24 hours, I spent 2 or 3 hours going through Chris Trump videos, and I posted all the IOMO up through number 4, the lactobacillus, FPJ, and I think the OHN. That's as far as I got, because I'm always watching the video again when I'm doing it, to see what I missed. And I found something I missed in one of them last night, and that usually doesn't happen too often, but it was interesting. I really enjoy watching the Chris Trump video. So if you can always find them on YouTube, but if you come over there and you're interested in regenerative organic farming or Korean natural farming, we'd love for you to come over there and post some of your grows and results and share your knowledge, or even ask questions, because I'm sure we can help you out either way. Oh, I also recently set up an Instagram account, Roger Latewood, at Instagram, although I really haven't built it yet. I kind of set it up so I could be sharing with some of the other people at the conference and such, and that are panelists here, because they're all on Instagram now. But I really haven't put anything much on my page. But if you want to give me a shout out, I'm out there. Give me a shout. I don't know what you do there. How do you connect with people on Instagram?
So there's messages if you click the arrow in the top right. Actually, I used it for a few months before I figured out DMs, and then I got a message on my phone. I couldn't figure out how to open it, and I was at which conference was it? It was in Vegas, and I just found a kid that was like, I don't know, the youngest person I could find within reasonable walking distance. And I walked up and I was like, "You're young, Instagram. Show me how to read my messages." And I was like, I handed him my phone. He's like, "Here, hit this." But I felt like an old man. It was great.
Yeah, well, I am an old man. No, but yeah, I was 62 yesterday. So.
Oh, well, happy birthday.
Or actually Sunday. I'm sorry. My birthday was Sunday. I turned 62.
Happy birthday.
My dad and mom were going to come out, but it was rainy and all, and he's not any spring chicken himself, so he don't drive in the gray rain, gray clouds, gray night, gray days. So I haven't had anybody come out for my birthday yet, but I'm looking forward to it this week when we get together. I'm sure it'll be pretty cool.
Awesome. And you guys can find me at Ponics on YouTube, potentponics.com, Ponics on SoundCloud, iTunes, a whole bunch of other places. And also, if you're enjoying the show, please hit the plus button or the thumbs up and the subscribe button. It does help. We get pretty heavily censored by Facebook and Instagram and YouTube as it is, and leaving comments and thumbs up definitely helps the show. So if you're looking for other ways to help us out, please go ahead and do those things, and it really helps the show get spread out. Yeah, so I really appreciate it. Thanks everyone for watching. Thanks again for AlpenGlow, and thanks again for Josh and Leighton for all the hard work they do to put on the conference, and we'll see you guys again on Thursday. Now, we were supposed to have Bubble Man on, but both Bubble Man and I are both going to be questionable with our travel to make the show, so we're going to reschedule Marcus to a later date, unfortunately, but what it is going to do is the show is probably going to be a little bit late, but we're going to basically just do a short show, kind of like we did before the Vancouver episode, and just bring in a couple of random speakers to talk for a few minutes.
That was 5 minutes before Vancouver. Y'all did like 5 minutes, and then see if we're going out to eat.
Yeah, well, we'll try to make it an hour or something, but it'll be a shorter episode with just a couple of speakers, maybe a short little bullshit session or something. But because it gets pretty crazy before these things, but we will have something. So. We appreciate everyone's continued support. We are almost at 5,000 subscribers on the YouTube. We surpassed 4,000 subscribers last week, 4,000 members on the Facebook group. And also don't forget about our Discord channel. We have a Discord channel. The link is both in the description of anywhere this is posted or on through the Facebook group Aquaponic Cannabis or Facebook/group/AP Canna. We'll get you the Facebook group. All right. So thanks everyone for watching, and we'll catch you guys again next week. Cheers.